Good morning, everyone. I'm Trisha Barker. And before we start, I thought I would just capitalize on the beautiful energy that Pat brought to this event. And I want you to, I'm stealing this quick meditation exercise from a few friends of mine who put out YouTube videos and for busy people. And I know that we can all be very busy in our lives, and sometimes we don't stop to just think about bringing spirit into our lives. So what I would like you to do is think about an emotion or feeling that you would like to express more of in your life. So whether that is joy, unconditional love, beauty, acceptance, something like, let's try joy. And I want you to think of an image. Usually people think of puppies or babies or something that just personifies joy for you. And I want you to visualize that in front of you. And then I want you to breathe in that feeling of joy. So picture joy, breathe it in, and breathe out joy to all people. Unconditional love is another big one. So think about that feeling of unconditional love. It might be a baby, it might be someone that you love unconditionally, or that feeling that God has for you of unconditional love. Picture it before you. Breathe it in, feel it inside of you, and breathe it out. It's very important to center this kind of feeling in your life, to take even just a minute to do that. And I know that in our busy lives, we sometimes don't do that. Beyond just imagining an energy, the angels are here with us. And this is something that I would have never believed in had I not had a near-death experience. But now I feel them as if they are friends, just guiding me on this path through life. And I want all of you to imagine, Pat talked about how we can help others in small ways. I want you to think of something that you need help with in a small way. And I want you to imagine the angels light blasting you with help in that way. So whatever it is that you need, I want you to imagine this being fulfilled. And then I want you to just open yourself to the possibility of being that small amount of help for someone else. And I want you to also see the angels just blasting you almost with a laser beam of light to give you the energy, the power, and the peace to go out into the world and to help someone in a small and beautiful way, which may lead to a large and beautiful way. So with that intention, we will begin. I'm so happy to be here with each of you and to have your attention for a full hour. I love Pat's talk so much, I'm going to refer to it from time to time. And mine is also messages from the NDE, because I think it isn't enough that we simply talk about this experience. It's so important that you have moments that you can actualize in your life, that we experience, that you carry these moments with you in your life, because that's the real healing. It's one thing to hear a story, but it's another thing to live it. And I'll tell you a little bit of who I was, and at the end I'm going to tell you more of who I was before my near-death experience. But I was a college student just down the road at UT in Austin, and I was falling apart my senior year. I knew that my life was a mess, and I didn't know if I was going to graduate or not. I had a D in one class, and I was about to graduate with Partying 101. That's what I was about to graduate with. And so the Austin 10K was my symbol of getting my life together. And I had a head-on collision at 60 miles an hour on my way to run that race, and I broke my back in 3 places. And I knew I was in bad shape because I couldn't reach into the glove box to get my identification. And when I realized that, I knew that, oh, this is major. I'm not possibly going to be able to walk. I didn't know what was going to happen to me, and I was agnostic at that time. My friends and I were very skeptical of spiritualist and religious people, and many of us were very harmed by religious people in our lives who were very judgmental and cruel to us. And so we turned against religion, and we found academia as this wonderful place that embraced us and gave us hope and gave us achievement. You know, that was part of my story too, though, you know, I was happy to be at this big university. Well, I didn't know if I was going to walk, what was going to happen. I just knew I was in bad shape. And I said one tiny little prayer. I was raised in an evangelical home, and I thought, okay, just on this off chance that there is a God up there, help me. And I saw this bird flying over, you know, that kind of foxhole prayer where you're like, all right, this is bad. And the ambulance got there and everything was moving in slow motion. I didn't have health insurance. I waited, and I overheard one surgeon tell a nurse over the phone that he wasn't going to come in because I didn't have health insurance. I knew that I needed spinal surgery. I was losing feeling in my left leg. And that freaked me out because I was a runner and I loved being physically active. And as time went on, I saw another surgeon who came to check on me, and she stopped, and she was young. And I had not seen a woman who was a surgeon before, and that kind of intrigued me. So I made a connection with her, and I asked her about what kind of car she drove. I mean, that's how materialistic I was. So I was like, where'd you go to school? Oh, you drive a BMW, wow. You know, like that was what interested me, but she liked me enough to make a connection with me, decided to come and operate on me. And I remember being wheeled in for that operation, and there was a 17% chance of death, and I thought, well, that's kind of high, you know, 17%, but little did I know it was 100%. I was definitely going to die on that table. And the minute I stepped out of form, I was so happy. I was so joyous. We go on. So I was wrong. The agnostic kid who thought that, you know, all that mattered was success and money, and that's what I was there at university to eventually get, suddenly changed. We go on, and I saw before me two beautiful angels. They were massive, and I want to show you. This is not moving forward. All I knew of angels was from an art history class, and that art history class, I saw Rembrandt and I saw angels like this, and they were not at all like I imagined. These angels were light beings and very large and so intelligent. The first thing that I thought was, my God, they know so much more than I do. So I was surprised, amazed, and they sent this light energy into my spirit form, and I was changing immediately. I was no longer that girl who was afraid and insecure and full of doubt and fear and pain. I was suddenly someone else who was full of creativity and interest, and I was amazed to learn that angels exist, and they calmed me down to this environment, and then they said very clearly, watch this, and they sent this blast of light through the back of my surgeons into my body. My whole body lit up with this light, and I knew that the bone fragments would be picked out, that my left leg would be fine, that I would walk, and I knew it was them, you know, that had an influence in this situation. I thought, how amazing. You know, maybe these surgeons know that angels are working through them, or maybe they don't. But it also reminded me that maybe in my future they could work through me. Well, as I went on, I had a full near-death experience. I had a life review, and I felt profoundly connected to everyone I had known. And one thing we can do for others that we don't think about is praying for them. And what I learned on the other side about prayer was people were praying for me. Here I was, I thought I was this really, you know, cool, edgy kid, but people I raided tables with, they saw my depression, they saw my sadness, and they prayed for me. And I thought, how gorgeous, how wonderful that these people looked into my life and they cared about me. And so I felt love and profound connection to most people I had known. And then I flew out over the sky of Austin into the starry sky. It was night when I went in for surgery. And then somehow I was in this heavenly landscape. And then I knew, you know, with certainty that I was dead. And that there was so much more to learn than just from the angels. And so I felt in a far off way this light of God. I saw my grandfather, and he kind of guided me through this heavenly landscape for a short while. And then I went toward the light of God. And as I went toward the light of God, I had never felt that good in my life. So the love of parents, the love of a boyfriend, the girlfriend, whoever is in your life is nothing like the love of God. I felt so profoundly loved. Every crevice of me was accepted. And that was shocking to me, because the religion that I grew up in would probably have said I was going to hell. You know, it wouldn't have said I was going to this place of absolute love and connection and beauty. But that's where I went. I went straight to the source of everything, and every little wound in me seemed healed in that moment. Now, of course, we come back to our lives, as Pat so aptly put it, and we have to live them, and we have to struggle with our psychological wounds, our relationships with others, our life in general. But in that moment, everything was perfect, and I did not want to go back. I felt the prayers of people trying to pull me back, and I thought, no way, I'm going to that source, because I've never felt that good. This is the best drug ever. You know, I'm going on. And then the light showed me this river, and there were all these souls, and they were so gorgeous. They were so amazing. They were filled with light, and then I saw that I was connected to them in some way. And I thought, no way, you know, I'm going to know thousands of people? That's crazy. How will I know thousands of people? Well, I saw that I had a tiny thread that connected to each of them. And then I saw that some of them needed to turn on their lights, and I would help them turn on their lights. And then I heard, you're going to be a teacher, and I'm a little rebellious, so I was like, no way, they don't pay teachers enough. And then I was back in my body, and that was the last message that I got from God, is you're going to be a teacher. So I could not go against what God said. From that moment on, you know, law school, editing, you know, working my way up in a company, nope, I'm going to teach. So why teaching? That's what I have thought about for a long time. And my near-death experience happened in 1994, so I've had a couple of decades to contemplate this and to teach and to consider what it all means. So why teaching? Why was I sent back to do this? Not every near-death experiencer gets a message from God to go do something specific. Well, to spread love, unconditional love, obviously. So I have an audience every day of lots of students, and you probably remember being in school. All of us want to be liked by our teacher, and I'm sure you remember these moments when, you know, a teacher scowled at you, or when a teacher loved you, and you felt, oh, just great, because someone cared enough to take interest in you. Well, I decided every time I went into a classroom, no matter who they were, I was going to love them all unconditionally. You know, that was my mission. It might be boring some days, I might not be the best teacher, but by God, I was going to love them. You know, even if they were falling apart, even if they're in a gang, even if they were going to be kicked out of school, they were going to have my love, because it might matter somewhere down the line. Well, I didn't realize at the time, but they were healing me. So I thought I was going in to heal them, but day by day, year by year, these students helped heal me with their love and their stories and their honesty and their openness and their fears and their experiences. So I was humbled by how much people go through in their lives. I thought I had been through a lot, and I had. But my students have, you know, the stories that they have told me have just amazed me, that they continue, that they have been through what they've been through, but love more. So what I learned is, even in the hardest of circumstances, and we all face them. I've had those students who told me they wanted to murder me. You know, I've had those students who told me that they wanted to kill my dog. They wanted to, you know, do these terrible things to me. And I thought, okay, how can I love them more? And in that circumstance, I mean, I may sound like a saint right now. I wasn't that way in other parts of my life, but I was that way in the classroom. But in the classroom, someone would tell me that, and I would go, okay, what do you need? What's going on in your life? You know, why do you want to kill my dog? Well, my dad, he hits me, and he loves animals. And this is what a junior high boy told me one time. And it just struck me. So his dad loved animals more than he loved him, and that's what the little boy thought in his mind, this 13-year-old kid. And so suddenly, I'm deep in his life. I'm working with CPS, I'm trying to help him, I'm trying to give him encouragement the whole year to make it, you know, through that situation, because CPS isn't there for teenagers a lot of times, and it's heartbreaking, but I could be there, and I could give him hope and inspiration. But I found that love can knock down these barriers that are so incredibly profound. So someone who comes from an abusive background is going to be angry, as they should be. They might do drugs to escape their pain. They might do many things that society looks at as bad, but they are only trying to escape pain. And when you're able to get in there with love and break through that, then you make a profound difference. There are so many reasons that I was brought to teaching. Suicide prevention is one of them. Creative people and creative minds tend to go through highs and lows, and so sometimes people with the greatest gifts have the lowest lows. And so I've come across students who are profoundly gifted, but they are also dealing with, you know, profound pain in their lives and mental illness. And I've had students who have lost through bullying when they were in school, friends who killed themselves, or they were coming out and it was too painful and the world around them didn't accept them and they killed themselves. But I also have had students who are amazing. This one student on the left, her father killed himself when she was 8, and she went on to start a walk at our college where she gathers people together and we walk and, you know, we talk about suicide prevention. Many of the professors are trained in helping not only prevent suicide, but also reach out and get students involved in that, where they can talk to one another if they see someone who is in a profound moment of pain and help someone. But beyond these moments where I've seen students creatively open up and then help others in profound ways, I have also seen them achieve goals. And I think that there's a tie between achieving goals and suicide prevention. People want to know that they can be of value in the world, and education is such a great place to remind them that they can be of value. And so when I see my students achieve something, when I see a single mom get off welfare at the community college level, get a job where she makes $50,000 for the first time in her life, take her son to Europe, my heart flies. You know, to me that is the most beautiful moment I can imagine, because I have been, you know, in her life for a certain reason, and I saw her manifest something that made a huge difference to her family and to her life, and that just a small part of that makes me feel amazing. And so people have to have skills to achieve goals, and they have to work hard to achieve them, but they need cheerleaders, they need coaches, and they need people behind them who are helping them get there and get to great colleges. And there's all kind of gifted students who have achieved a lot. I love this quote by Matt Kahn. So I'm going to tell you some other stories about students' lives, and these students sometimes have gone through, as I hinted at, so much. So my own suffering is minor in comparison to what I've seen. And so I always remember that it's important to have an intention like this. I allow those who suffer even deeper than I have ever hurt to be healed, awakened, transformed as never before than I am now. That statement resonates with me so deeply, because if I had not been a teacher, I would have been so self-focused. I would have focused on my pain, my hurt, my life, and I never would have let it go. It would have been all-consuming. But when I got into the classroom, I let it all go. I forgot me. And that was such an amazing gift. And to forget me and to focus on you was the greatest gift of my life. And then I did come across people who hurt more than me. And here's another one, because as a woman, I think there are particular issues where I helped many women, and every woman who heals herself helps heal all the women who came before her and all those who come after her. So many students want to feel safe with someone, and they want to, and this is at all ages. I taught from junior high to the college level, and I've heard the same stories from junior high to college of things that people have been through, and they want a safe person to talk to. Well, my lessons became their lessons. It wasn't enough that I reach into their lives and help them in particular. I wanted them to get out of themselves. I wanted them to have the joy that I had, because I left all my troubles at the door the minute I walked into that university or school, and I wanted them to do the same. So I encouraged my students to do service learning. We picked a small school, Nash Elementary, and we went into this school, and my students, you can see on each side, are working with younger kids in elementary. And they loved it. I have never seen students so engaged in school as when they were helping other people. They told me these stories that melted my heart, and sometimes they got the wrong message. One guy came back and he was like, wow, that little girl's eyes lit up when she saw me. I think I want to have kids. And I was like, wait, that's not exactly the message I was trying to teach. But he had never considered the joy of having kids before that moment. And he thought, you know, this is amazing. Other students, though, got it. They were like, wow, when I gave encouragement to this child, I felt great about myself. And that's the whole point. We feel wonderful about ourselves when we help others. And so service to the community, also, it allowed them to understand their place in the community and what they had to heal from. So many of my students who grew up poor in that community saw these kids who were suffering. They were shocked. They thought, oh, wow, I was in a similar situation. How did I make it through? How can I help them? And they just became more open-minded to the needs of their community and what they might do to help. Okay, this is a big one. One of the messages that I heard on the other side, and I love it when I hear other near-death experiencers talk about this, I heard in that heavenly landscape the actual words, remind them to go to nature. And I thought, well, how am I supposed to remind people to go to nature? Well, I take them there. So when it's my students, they're so excited. We don't have to lecture that day. We go down to the river, we meditate for a short while, we connect with one another. They come back and their stress is gone, and they tell me about this, and they tell me, well, many of them, not all of them, but many of them take a walk in the evenings to relieve their stress and to connect with nature, and it's something that they haven't done before, and that changes their lives. Well, nature is also this portal to the other world, in the other realm, I believe. So as I go to nature, and I've had many beautiful experiences in nature, I felt healed. So at a really difficult moment in my life, I decided to climb a mountain by myself, and I climbed this mountain and I got to the top, and I felt as if I was this sacrificial lamb or goat or something at the top. I just laid down and I felt completely broken, you know, as if, how could I possibly go on? Well, then I felt the light of heaven just raining into my life while I was on top of that mountain, and I just ran down that mountain with so much childlike joy afterwards. And I know that I connected with something beautiful. I know that nature can heal us, sometimes more than going to therapy. And so I think that is something we need to remember. I also think we can connect with amazing spirits as well. There have been many times I've meditated in nature, and then I've felt inspiration and guidance from the other side, and those moments have been profound. But mostly, I think we experience joy, and that was another message of the near-death experience, is be like a little child. Of course, that message is very much biblical. And when I think about that, what does that mean to people? In fact, you tell me, shout out, what does being like a little child mean to you?
Beginner's mind.
Beginner's mind, beautiful, beautiful. What else? Curious, awesome. What else? Spontaneous, yes. Not everything is planned out, so we're just gonna go do this, and it's so much fun. What else? Innocence, playful. Oh, very good. So
Curiosity.
yes, curiosity, definitely. So children are not bored. They are amazed at this world. So they're in this moment and they cannot believe that they're alive. They just find everything gorgeous. Looking into your eyes, gorgeous. Looking into your eyes, gorgeous. Everything about the world is exciting to them. We need so much more of that, and nature is the one place where adults can act like that, can't we? We can see a gorgeous mountain or this raging river, and suddenly we're transported back to awe, and back to wonder, and back to joy, and that's where we need to be. So that is one of the stronger messages of the near-death experience for me, is just get rid of technology, connect with one another, and get to nature. I do want to talk a little bit about who I was before and who I was after the near-death experience. And I haven't done this very often, but I do want you to look into the eyes of that young girl before the near-death experience, and that's Edge, if you don't know, from YouTube. Bono was here in town, and so many of us gathered around to go see the concert, and then afterwards we circled around them and got his autograph, and that picture was snapped of me. In the 90s, we didn't capture as many pictures as we do now, so many of the pictures of me are very far away. But in this one, I think you can see some of the fear and the sadness and the pain in that girl's eyes. And I say that girl because I just don't feel like her anymore. The near-death experience does something to us. It just yanks us out of that situation. And then suddenly we're in a different place. But that girl was sad. That girl had been through a lot, and she did not have a lot of hope. By the time I was that age, I was just tired. I had survived a lot, and I didn't really think that I had the energy to, in any way, talk to people. So I had a speech class, and this speech class, I remember nearly passing out when I had to talk for 5 minutes. So I read a poem that I had to write, for that class. I thought I would die, but I loved poetry, and we went to these poetry slams. I would have to slam back several whiskey shots before I could talk to people. It was all about me. So everything in my life was all about me. There was so much judgment in a way that made me feel bad about myself. I'd look at other people, oh, she's prettier than me, she has better clothes, better life, all these different things, instead of just appreciating being alive and having this life. Well, after the near-death experience, it kind of looks like I'm about to jump off a cliff. That's not exactly right. Although there is no fear of death. I know that many near-death experiencers talk about this. I had absolutely no fear of dying. I had a lot of fear of pain. When you survive trauma and physical trauma, you don't want to go through that again. But there I am in Canada, and I'm overlooking this gorgeous waterfall. I want to be one with everything that I see around me. I'm so connected to this earth and so connected to my journey. And I'm smiling, and it's a different type of smile than I ever smiled before. Every smile was so self-conscious. Every smile was about me, and then suddenly my life was about the experience of being alive. And I really did have a lot of that childlike wonder come back into my life. Now, how did the near-death experience and teaching heal me? Well, each student that I came in contact with and I was able to help in some small way, slowly wounds that I thought I would never heal began to heal. So even small, silly ones. Like a little thing, like my first boyfriend cheated on me, and I carried that with me for so long. Well, when I saw a little kid who, she came up to me and she was like, oh, I cheated on my boyfriend. I was like, oh, okay, well, you're 18, whatever, and I forgave her instantly. And, then I was like, oh, maybe I should forgive him instantly. Maybe I should just forgive everyone. So these small little lessons of forgiveness became a huge part of my life. And I started forgiving everyone that I had ever known in my life. Anyone who had ever harmed me, slowly I began to forgive them through working with other students and through working with people and going, okay, they've made that mistake, they've harmed someone or they've been harmed, let's just realize our connection to everyone. I absolutely love this quote. Your destiny and the destiny of every living being is to be who you truly are, divine beings full of love and light. Your purpose and the purpose of every living being is to heal, serve, and love unconditionally in your own unique way. So, I was meant to be a teacher, and it made a lot of sense later, but whatever you do in your life, as Pat said earlier, do it with love, even small things. Look at your waitress, think about how she might have been like me, this girl at 22 who was so lost and so in pain, and just give her something of your love and something of your life, even if it is just a deep smile or a question about what she's studying or he's studying, and take that time to really connect with people because it means so much. So the final piece that I would like to say is also, don't fear. So the opposite, that darkness that I saw around certain souls and I saw in certain ways, I think is fear more than anything else. And fear is what prevents us from living this life of love. And to live a life of love, you have to step out without fear. I see many students who are surrounded with fear, whether it's just taking a test or whatever that might be, and fear is this detractor from everything that we want. And so in order to succeed, you have to set fear down, and that was one of the more important lessons from the near-death experience. But I also want to talk at the end just briefly about the book that I'm writing and I have been writing. So about 2 years ago, I got a message from God, and I don't know if anyone has ever heard God's voice, but I was so shocked. God's voice came down. I was walking up the stairs in my campus, so loud I nearly fell over. So this voice of God came down to me and said, your contract is over. You do not have to teach anymore, and you can do whatever you want. And I thought, what? Am I gonna die? Like, is this the time that I take off and leave the planet? And I had all kind of complicated health issues at that time, so I thought, maybe it is. Maybe I've literally reached the lives of everyone that I needed to reach, and I was done. Well, but the key phrase is you can do whatever you want. And so I think you can do whatever you want as long as you do it with love. I can do whatever I want as long as I do it with love, and I finally learned the lesson. So I say that near-death experiencers have to be hit over the head kind of hard sometimes to learn these lessons. Many friends I know have talked about awakening or their moment of awakening, and they awaken gently at a conference or meditating. No, I had to have surgery and I had to get broken nearly in half to wake up, but you can wake up gently, you can wake up slowly, and you can bring God's love and power into your life too, and I think that that's an important thing to remember. So when I was told that I would no longer have to teach, I thought, what am I going to do? I started writing this book, and it just made a lot of sense. I'm an English professor. I love writing. Why not write a book? All near-death experiences are, right? Well, how is my book different? My book is different because I wanted to capture the students and their lives and why I was meant to teach, but also I wanted to write a book that was shockingly honest. The books that I love are not necessarily near-death experience books. They are The Liars Club and Glass Castle and these memoirs where people just talk about the abuse that they've survived, the lives that they've lived, maybe their alcoholism, maybe their parents' alcoholism, maybe things that are so heartbreaking that you feel shattered when you read that book. And it's hard to write about trauma, but I found that when you bring the light of the near-death experience and the light of God into moments of trauma and into these moments in our life that are so hard, they are transformed and wounds become scars, just like the scar that I have on my back. It's just something that's there. I don't even think about it because I am something else. I am the light. And so that's what I learned through writing this book, is that healing really comes from the other side. So everything that I have been through, both before the near-death experience and after the near-death experience, the answer is in the near-death experience. It's the light of God that is in each of our lives. But thank you.
Thank you, Trish.